So continuing with our discussions, we had some discussions on bilateral Laplace transform. I am just summarizing the properties of bilateral Laplace transform. Most of the properties are similar to that of those of unilateral Laplace transform. There may be some differences, but the main point is that what is the effect on the ROC? How does the ROC change based on these properties? So to understand that, I am considering that the Laplace transform of a continuous time signal x1t will be represented by x1s, and its region of convergence will be represented by R1. Similarly for x2t, x2s with an ROC of R2. Now, first property is that of linearity, like any other transform. So if xt is the weighted sum of x1t and x2t, the weights are k1 and k2. K1 and k2, these are constants. So if xt is a linear combination of x1t and x2t, then the Laplace transform of xt, which I'll represent by capital Xs, obviously it will be k1 x1s plus k2 x2s. And the ROC of xs, it will be containing the intersection of the two ROCs, R1 and R2. The overlapping of the two ROCs, R1 and R2. That is the first property. So you please write down, then I'll move on to the next one. In the examples that I have considered, we have already illustrated that the ROC will contain the overlap of the two ROCs. ROC of xs will contain the overlap of these two ROCs of x1s and x2s. That has already been illustrated. All right. By examples. So I'm moving on to the next properties. Next is time shifting. If the Laplace transform of xt is xs, then Laplace transform of the time shifted version of xt, t naught here can be positive or negative. When it is positive, we have a time delayed version of xt. When it is negative, we have a time advanced version of xt. So Laplace transform of time shifted version of xt, it will be equal to xs, the Laplace transform of xt, multiplied by e to the power minus st naught. And the ROC will remain unchanged. The ROC here will be same as the ROC of xs. I am considering these things without proof. If you're interested in the proofs, you may go through the textbook by Oppenheim, Wilsky, and Young. I think that there the proofs may be there. Next is shifting in the S domain. Here we had shifting in the time domain. Here we have shifting in the S domain. Just a dual property. There is a duality relationship between the two. So Laplace transform of e to the power s naught t xt, that will be x s minus s naught. So there is a shifting along in the S domain. On multiplying xt by e to the power s naught t, where s naught is a constant, the Laplace transform gets shifted by s naught. Here the ROC will be ROC of that Laplace transform. The ROC will be the ROC of XS plus the real part of S naught. That will be the new ROC. Next is time scaling. The time scaled version of xt, its Laplace transform will be 1 by magnitude of A x s by A, and the ROC of the Laplace transform of xat, it will be the ROC of xs, which is capital R divided by small a. Convolution in time domain results in multiplication in the Laplace domain, in S domain. And in this case, the ROC will contain the intersection of R1 with R2. Here there is an extra convolution sign. That is a mistake. Just 1 minute. Write down. কমলেশদা একটু পরে যদি ফোন করে, আমি একটা ক্লাস নিচ্ছি আসলে। ঠিক আছে। Now, some of you raised a point regarding the implication of the location of zeros of the transfer function. In this part, I have tried to throw some light on that aspect. Although you have not studied about Bode plot, I think. Have you come across Bode plot in the other part of the syllabus? You have come across Bode plot? Oh, okay. Then it's fine. Now, one thing is clear that I have already considered that if the number of poles, if the number of poles is greater than the number of zeros, then the gain magnitude will tend to 0 as the frequency becomes large. All right. On the contrary, if there is an excess of zeros, the gain magnitude will increase without bound as the frequency of the input signal increases. That cannot happen in the physical system because it implies that the power gain will be infinite. All right. So it will be an unstable system. So that is one criterion to start with. Next is that if a system, suppose a system has a pair of complex conjugate zeros close to the imaginary axis. All of you have studied the implication of having complex conjugate poles. All right, I'm not going through that. What's the effect of having a pair of complex conjugate zeros close to the imaginary axis? Just 1 minute. It means that now just try to understand that 0 means wherever the 0 is located, xs will tend to 0 at that value of s. So here, if there is a complex conjugate zeros close to the imaginary axis, say in the figure that I have shown here, the complex conjugate pair of zeros, what are the location of these zeros? Sigma 1 plus minus j omega 1. So the corresponding frequency is omega 1. It implies that the magnitude response of the system under consideration, it will have a dip or a notch. There will be a fall in the gain magnitude or a notch at frequencies in the vicinity of the 0. That means here, because I have considered that the zeros are located at sigma 1 plus minus j omega 1, therefore at that frequency omega 1, if you consider the gain magnitude of the system, at that frequency omega 1, close to that frequency omega 1, there will be a dip, a fall in the amplitude response, all right, or a notch will happen there. Now consider the case that the zeros lie, a complex conjugate pair of zeros, they lie directly on the j omega axis. Say now they are located at plus minus j omega 1. These are the zeros. It means that if the system is excited by a sinusoidal excitation with frequency omega 1, that sinusoidal excitation system will not respond to that. The system will block that frequency omega 1. If you introduce a sinusoid with frequency omega 1 as the input to the system will block it. It will not allow the sine wave to pass through if the frequency is omega 1 at that frequency. Write down, then proceed. Have you completed writing this particular slide? So that is zeros, pair of complex conjugate zeros close to the imaginary axis. Not directly on the imaginary axis, but close to the imaginary axis. In the vicinity of the zero means don't think that it's zero frequency. In the vicinity of the frequency corresponding to the location of the zeros. All right. That means here the frequency is omega 1. So in the vicinity of the frequency omega 1, the gain magnitude of the system, it will have a dip or notch, a sharp fall. So you may write here within brackets omega 1. And there, when they are directly on the j omega axis, the sine wave of frequency omega 1, the system will block it. A zero at the origin. All right. It implies that the DC gain of the system is zero. The system will not allow any DC to pass through it. So zero at the origin of the S-plane corresponding to pure differentiation. You know that the transfer function of ideal differentiator is S, isn't it? Ideal differentiator, it has a transfer function of S. So that's why it's written corresponding to a pure differentiation. Because here S is zero. All right, this is the location. Zero at the origin. Zero at the origin means there is a single, for this particular case, in the numerator, there is a term small s. So that means that it corresponds to pure differentiation. I'm not talking about the entire system, but one component will be pure differentiation. So S equal to 0 means the DC gain of the system will be 0. And that is how you find out the DC gain. Given any transfer function of a linear time invariant system, simply if you substitute S equal to 0, that will give you the DC gain of the system. Now come to this point. Addition, what I have written down here is if you just add a 0 to the transfer function. So that will result in advancement of the phase. To cite an example, suppose a transfer function GS is some static gain k is there divided by s plus a. Frequency response obviously is k divided by j omega plus a. That means if you express it in the polar form, that is the magnitude part, and this is the argument minus tan inverse omega by a. Now here, if you add a 0, what will happen? I have added here a 0. So where is this 0 located? At s equal to b. If I am considering here that b is positive. So there is a 0 on the right half, or 0 is being added, and that 0 lies in the right half of the s plane. All right. What is the corresponding frequency response? Just see here that by replacing s with j omega, you will get this expression. Well, the magnitude is modified, no doubt, but what happens to the phase is that here it's 180 degree minus tan inverse omega by b minus tan inverse omega by a. That means earlier it was minus tan inverse omega by a. Now it has become 180 degree minus tan inverse omega by b. All right. Minus tan inverse omega by a. So there has been a phase advancement, and this is the amount of the phase advancement. All right. Do you understand why it is 180 degree minus tan inverse omega by b? It is because if you consider this term, just see here that the real part is negative. Real part is negative. All right. That means where will the this angle lie? I mean, it will be less than 180 degree. It will lie in between 90 degree and 180 degree, isn't it? So that's why it's coming out as 180 degree minus tan inverse omega by b. If I had added a 0 that lies on the left half of the s plane, then what would have happened? That would have been the phase advancement. Tan inverse omega by b, that would have been the phase advancement. But in case of 0 that is being added, if it lies in the right hand of s plane, then the phase advancement will be much larger. It's expected. That can be done. That is also another implication of 0. I'm just coming within 10 seconds. Can I move on to the next slide?
Yes, sir. বলে দেবে চলে এসো কি করছিস তুই?
Have you come across these terms? Minimum phase system, maximum phase system, and mixed phase systems? Okay. These are important concepts. When you'll be studying control systems, control theory, you'll be dealing with these topics in details. But I have found that this is a proper place to just to introduce these concepts. Minimum phase, maximum phase, and mixed phase system. It is also known as non-minimum phase systems. First, a formal definition of this type of systems. A causal and stable LTI system is called minimum phase system if its inverse is causal and stable. Just 1 minute. Causal and stable. And a causal and stable LTI system is a maximum phase system if its inverse is causal and unstable. All right. Just to cite illustrative examples in support of what I am trying to point out here. See, from the definition, you cannot correlate this definition with the terms minimum phase or maximum phase. It's something to do with phase response, isn't it? Okay, let's try to consider some illustrative examples and try to explore why this term is ascribed to such systems. What is meant by minimum phase? Now we are considering two systems, one with transfer function Gs equal to s plus 6 divided by s plus 8. All right. So here, where is the pole located? At s equal to minus 8, and 0 is located on the left half of the s plane. S equal to minus 6. Both pole and 0, they are in the left half of the s plane. On the contrary, here, although the pole is in the left half of the s plane, the 0 is in the right half of the s plane. 0 is located at s equal to 6. Now, corresponding to Gs, this is the frequency response. Corresponding to Hs, this is the frequency response. I have replaced S with J omega. Right. Now, Gj omega, if you just express it in the polar form, that is the magnitude part and this is the phase angle part. While Hj omega, this is the magnitude part and this is the phase angle part. Because Hj omega, where was the pole located? Sorry, where was the 0 located? 0 was located on the right half of the S plane. Now, the magnitude response of the two systems, they are same, but the phase responses are different. Which one has a larger contribution to the phase shift? Hs. This is the larger contribution to the phase shift compared to that one. All right. This is by virtue of the 0 lying in the right half of S plane. Hence, in this combination, in this set of two sample transfer functions, Hs is the maximum phase system and GS is the minimum phase system. And as its zero lies in the left half of S plane. All right. Thus, if we extend this definition to higher order systems, we may define the minimum phase system and maximum phase system in this way also, that in case of the minimum phase system, the poles as well as stable minimum phase system, the poles as well as the zeros, all the zeros, they lie in the left half of the S plane, while in case of maximum phase system, the poles lie in the left half of the S plane for stability, but the zeros lie in the right half of the S plane for for the system to be maximum phase. All right. Now try to correlate with the definition that I have given. There in the definition I have talked about the stability of the inverse systems. Inverse system means the inverse system of GS has a transfer function 1 by GS. One by GS. All right. So what will be the transfer function here? S plus 8 by S plus 6. Just see here that it's causal and stable. The inverse is causal and stable. That is because the pole as well as the zero, they lie in the left half of the S plane. But the S plane, what could have happened? That's shown here. 1 by HS equal to S plus 8 by S minus 6. So the zero of HS has become the pole of 1 by HS. The pole of HS has become the zero of 1 by HS. So here just see that the pole lies in the right half of the S plane. So this is causal and unstable. Therefore, in general, a minimum phase system has zeros in the left half of S plane. A maximum phase system has zeros in the right half of S plane. Just write down these things, then I'll proceed.
Sir, can you please go to the previous slide once? Okay, sir. Done, sir.
Just see that there are two distinct types that I have considered. One, the minimum phase system. In case of the minimum phase system, the zeros, all the zeros are in the left half of S plane. Second, the maximum phase system, there all the zeros are in the right half of the S plane. Obviously, there can be systems in abundance for which some zeros will lie in the right half and the other zeros will lie in the left half. So for those variety of systems, they are known as mixed phase system or non-minimum phase system. So mixed phase system has some of its zeros on the left half and has others on the right half of the S plane. I have cited one example here. Just see here, have a look at the zeros. That zero is in the left half, S equal to minus 1.5. Third one is also in the left half, S equal to minus 7.5. But the middle one, it is in the right half. The poles are all in the left half for the stability of the system. Now just see, in case of a mixed phase system, if you consider the inverse system, then because the poles of the original transfer function now become the zeros and the zeros of the original transfer function now become the poles, what is happening here in case of the inverse system? You have a pole in the right half of the S plane. That makes the system unstable. So write down. Here I have considered a third order system where just see that the pole was lying at s equal to plus 5.2. Now I have changed the sign here, shifted it to the left half. Now you have here a minimum phase system. And here what I have done, it's a maximum phase system. All right. Because the other two poles I have changed their signs. Now it has become a maximum phase system. If you consider the inverse of T1s, it will be a stable system. If you consider the inverse of T2s, for this case, all the three poles lie in the right half of the S plane, so the system is unstable. Remember that even if a single pole lies in the right half of the S plane, the system will be unstable, as I have considered in the first example. Have a look at this network. There is a altogether different thing that I am trying to point out here. This network is a very important network because this is called what is known as lag lead network. All right, lag lead network. Now, because I have configured this part, the main part of the network, in the inverting mode, just for the sake of changing the sign, I have introduced here an inverter. That resistance is smaller, this one is also smaller. So VO will simply be the negative of EO1. All right. Now here, if you derive the expression for the transfer function for the entire setup, say if you consider EO1S by EOS, what will that be equal to? It will be equal to minus of ZB. If I just consider that impedance parallel combination as ZB, and if this is ZA, then EO1S by EOS, that will be minus ZBS by ZAS, isn't it? Therefore, VOS by EOS, the actual transfer function that we want to have, what will that be equal to? It will be plus ZBS divided by ZAS. So VOS by EOS. So what is this one? This is ZBS, that impedance in the S domain. So this is ZBS divided by ZAS. On rearranging the terms, on simplifying, we get it as RB by RA times 1 plus S RACA divided by 1 plus S RBCB. So if I represent RACA by alpha as shown here and RBCB as by beta, then it is RB by RA divided by times 1 plus alpha S divided by 1 plus beta S. Write this down, then I'll proceed further. এই নেটওয়ার্কটা কি পড়তে হয়েছে তোমাদের কোনো সাবজেক্টে? হ্যাঁ, আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, তাহলে পড়োনি। এমনি তেমন কিছু নেই, ওই সিম্বলিক্যালি ওরকম লেখে অনেক জায়গায়, তাই। Now, what I want to do here is that I claim that by selecting proper values of RA, RB, CA, CB, I can make this network act as a phase advancing network. Similarly, by proper choice of RA, CA, RB, CB, I can also use it as a phase retarding network. You understand the difference? Phase advanced network means, say, suppose this voltage EO, it lags a reference voltage by certain angle. So it may be your desire to decrease the amount of lag that EO is having with respect to the reference voltage, or you may make the EO leading the reference voltage. Not EO, but you may want to generate a voltage that will lead the reference voltage. In both the cases, the duty of the network will be to introduce a phase advancement, isn't it? I've spoken about EO1, actually I mean VO. So VO may be EO is lagging a certain reference voltage. By adjusting these parameters, you want to generate a voltage VO that will lag the reference voltage by a lesser amount, or VO may lead the reference voltage. That means you are actually introducing a phase advancement, all right, if that is the necessity. Another requirement can be to generate a voltage which will lag the reference voltage by a larger amount. Two options are there. That's why this is called lag lead compensator. When it is acting as a phase advancement network, it is lag compensator. When it is acting as a phase retarding network, it is compensator. All right. So to understand that, write down the expression for the frequency response. VOS by VOJ omega by EOJ omega. This is the expression. All right. Now, this ratio, I am expressing it in the polar form. So that is the ratio of the magnitudes, and this is the argument. Tan inverse omega RACA minus tan inverse omega RBCB. All right. First, think about the case when omega RBCB is very small compared to 1. Say omega is your frequency of interest. Say you are operating at power frequency. So omega is 2 pi into 50. You adjust RB and CB such that this product omega RBCB is very small compared to 1. If that be the case, then what will happen? This denominator will approximately equal 1. What will happen here? That phase angle tan inverse omega RBCB, that will be approximately 0. Can we consider to be 0? Then VO j omega by EO j omega, it's given by this expression. So it is of the form K1 1 plus j alpha omega. All right. So this is equal to K1 into 1 plus alpha S. This will not be just there is a mistake. This will not be only K1. K1 is RB by RA times this thing. Or it's RB by RA, it's all right. And I am just converting from this polar form to a rectangular form. K1 is RB by RA, and that polar form expression is converted into an exponential form expression. 1 plus j alpha omega. What is alpha? RACA. If alpha is RACA, then this expression is 1 plus j RACA omega. So if you express it in polar form, you will have it, this is the magnitude and that is the argument. All right. Now converting from this polar form to the Laplace domain, what do you have? K1 into 1 plus alpha s. From this expression, you are seeing that the network is acting as a phase advanced network, because just see that the phase angle, the argument is positive. So now here it's acting as a phase advanced network and serving the purpose that I have mentioned. If on the contrary, you have selected the parameters such as omega RACA is very small compared to 1. Omega RACA is very small compared to 1. Under that case, the numerator will become approximately 1. That angle will be approximately 0. So what will happen? VO j omega by EO j omega, it will be this K1 times a certain function of j omega expressed it in the polar form. If you convert it into a Cartesian form, that is the expression where beta is RB into CB. So here it is acting as a phase retarding network. When it is acting as a phase advanced network, we may call that it is compensating the lag in the input voltage EO. When it is acting as the phase retard network, you may say that it is compensating the lead in the input voltage EO. All right. So that is a very important network, have very many applications in control as well as in instrumentation. Oh, sorry. If you have any question in this connection, please speak out.
Sir, why we are considering only these two cases? Sir, in the first expression, in the second line, you have written that tan inverse omega of RACA minus tan inverse of omega RBCB. So, if we can make those make that difference positive or negative, then that would also cause a lag or lead in the phase.
Yes, yes,
So,
it's definitely, definitely. But what I mean here is that it is a just right here complete phase advance network. Complete. I am harping on that. Complete. You are right. If this is greater than that one, that's what you mean, isn't it?
yes, sir.
Then also it's a phase advancing network. That is true. So here light complete phase advance network, and here complete phase retard network.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Because often I don't know how far you have progressed in your instrumentation class regarding sensors. As for example, oh, that is outside that syllabus now, I think. Force balance accelerometer, there you have to consider one circuit that consists of a phase advancing network with that type of transfer function, K1 into 1 plus alpha S. So just you introduce the term complete. Here also just write complete phase retard network. কমপ্লিট এই সেন্সে এই টার্মটা নেই। হোয়াট ইয়োর ফ্রেন্ড হ্যাজ সেড, তুমি বললে নাকি অন্য কেউ বলেছিল? ও আচ্ছা, see here that there is a difference between the two. What he was saying is that if simply this term is greater than the second term, then it acts as a phase advanced network, isn't it? So that's why I have considered an extreme case of that phase advanced network. That's why I have used the adjective complete phase advanced network in this case. For a similar reason here, I have considered complete phase retard network. Because in the earlier expression here, if second term is greater than the first one, then it is obviously a phase retard network. But the condition that I have considered, this is the extreme case. That's why. Now it's nice that you have got an exposure to Bode plot. Tell me one thing. What is the frequency response of an ideal integrator? Huh? Frequency response. What is the expression for the frequency response of ideal integrator? That is the transfer function. The usual answer that comes from the students is 1 by j omega, because in 1 by s you replace s with j omega and you get the frequency response of an integrator as 1 by j omega. That is the usual answer. But there are constraints. It's true that it can be considered as 1 by j omega, but that is under some constraint. What is the exact expression for the frequency response of an ideal integrator? First, start from that. Recall the integration property of Fourier transform. All right, that was the expression. Fourier transform of integral of ft. All right, that is the Fourier transform of small f, that means capital F j omega times pi delta omega plus 1 by j omega. That means if you multiply, it comes out as pi capital F0 delta omega plus capital F j omega by j omega. Capital F j omega is the Fourier transform of small ft. It means that the frequency response of the ideal integrator is that it's pi delta omega plus 1 by j omega, isn't it? Because when you are applying ft to an ideal integrator, what will be the Fourier transform of the output? This will be the Fourier transform of the output. Fourier transform of the output will be Fourier transform of the input times the frequency response of the ideal integrator. So this is the frequency response of the ideal integrator, no doubt in that. So that's why this is the frequency response of the ideal integrator. But where is the fallacy? People who teach you Bode plot, they say that its frequency response is 1 by j omega and you draw according to that. Just try to understand that for those signals for which capital F0 is 0, what is the significance of capital F0 equal to 0? What is capital F0? It is the value of the Fourier transform of small ft at omega equal to 0. So capital F0 equal to 0 implies that the time domain signal does not have a constant term. All right. Therefore, for such a case, Fourier transform of the integral of ft, it becomes fj omega by j omega. So under that constraint, the frequency response of the ideal integrator may be treated as 1 by j omega. When you are considering the Bode plot, you are not considering the signals with constant term. That is one part of the story. All right. You are concerned with sinusoidal components. Second part of the story is that in the Bode plot, you can never go down to omega equal to 0, isn't it? Because the abscissa is a logarithmic scale. It has a logarithmic scale. So can you consider up to omega equal to 0? Is that possible? Huh? You cannot. Therefore, under such a constraint, particularly if I confine my attention to signals for which there is no constant term in the time domain signal, there is no DC term. Constant term means DC term. For those signals, gi j omega can be treated as 1 by j omega. Otherwise, this is the exact expression. So don't make mistake. All right. Remember this once and for all. That this is the exact expression. Unfortunately, in the textbooks, they don't, they avoid these things, most of the textbooks. Barring one or two, as for example, Oppenheim, Wilsky, and Young. They have pointed out clearly. So remember this thing. Please write down. Is it clear or should I explain once more? So I have come to the end of my lecture session. I have nothing more to say. If you have any questions, please speak out. কিছু বলার আছে? তোমাদের এই হোম অ্যাসাইনমেন্টে কি সিলেবাস সেটা আমি জানিয়ে দেবো কয়েকদিনের মধ্যে।
Sir,
হ্যাঁ,
sir, properties of the bilateral যে ল্যাপ্লাস ট্রান্সফর্ম ছিল ওখানে স্যার প্রপার্টি 6 থেকে কি একটা পেজ ছিল?
মিস করে গেলাম নাকি?
একবার দেখবেন।
সিক্স সেভেন এইট এটা
স্যার এই পেজটা
ও এটা মিস করে গেছিলাম আমি। সরি। So this is differentiation in time domain. So Laplace transform of the derivative of xt is sxs. You know it. ROC will be containing the region of convergence of xs. Now differentiation in the s domain. If you multiply xt with time with minus sign, then that will be the derivative of xs. ROC will be same as that of xs. And this is obviously for the integration in time domain. That is the expression. Here the ROC will contain, please note it carefully, ROC will contain intersection of the region of convergence of xs with the region of convergence of Laplace transform of unit step. RU is the ROC of Laplace transform of unit step. Sorry, I missed it. ঠিক আছে তাহলে? Thank
Sir,
you. Thank you very much.
excuse me, sir.
Ah,
Sir, is it possible to shift the class which is going to held on coming Monday, because something has
Huh?
came out of the blue for me. Sir, is it possible to shift the class which will going to be held on Monday, because
No,
I will
no.
not able to.
This was the last
Oh,
class.
okay.
I have
Means
completed. I
our
have
whole syllabus has
completed what
got
I wanted
over.
to say. All right.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Nothing more to say.